them boys that sat on them benches. I never talked to them boys that sat on them benches. I was in the game on 4th and inches.
Now it's time to go to work. What is going on, Florida State family, Seminole Nation, in the 863 tribe? It's your boy POLK, a.k.a. A-Lo, a.k.a. the goddamn truth. Bye week is in the books. Hopefully we used it the right way. Got a little less banged up. So more healthy. And on deck this weekend, Virginia Tech. That's on the schedule tonight as we look at Virginia Tech, man. And yeah, I mean, Tech comes into the building. And they aren't exactly a world beaters at 2-3, but we're going to look at them a little bit, but then just talk about, what's some expectations? What do we want to see coming off the bye week, playing a team like Virginia Tech? I think those are valid questions, and hopefully we come to some answers here tonight on episode 93 of The Hangover. Let's get to it, man. Preview and predictions for Virginia Tech. But as always, man, before we get down and dirty, you got to pay some bills. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Share the video. And get in that comment section, because we about to hit the roll call in about 10 to 15 seconds. We're going to hit the roll call, waste no more time, and get it cracking. So, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tyler Hedden in the building. Steel Supreme in the building. Vontae B. Todd Pope. KCD. Omar Long, Ronald Smith, FSU Tony, Seminole Zach, ML 1219, The Land, Damian Adams, Richard Pirate, Pirate. I don't know, Richard, but tell me how I'm pronouncing that. Pirate. Richard in the building. Montre, Matthew Rawson, Noel Power. I am BK, the Universal God. Corey Hall and Black Shear Noel all in the building. Again, hit the like button on the way in. Ring the doorbell, pay the bills. a.k.a. Pirate. Got it. So I said it right the first time. And share the video as we get into today's topic of discussion. We got Virginia Tech on the schedule here to this weekend. Is it a big recruiting weekend? I don't know how big of a recruiting weekend it is. I do know that there's some already committed players showing up this weekend, so I don't know all the details. Haven't quite been following the recruiting, to be quite honest with you. After the big summer, I really haven't paid too much attention on what's going on the trail. Query Watkins in the building and Insane Mob. Haven't paid too much attention, so I'm not going to lie to you. I do know like Luke Cromenhawk should be there this weekend. BJ Gibson, I think, tweeted something about this weekend. So there should be some guys in the building this weekend as far as guys that are already committed. I'm aware, I believe LJ McCray is in the building. I don't have good feels about that one, if I'm just being honest with you. But we'll see what happens with that one. I think that is a I don't know. I don't know if Florida State's in that one. But be honest with you, let me take a drink real quick. Water, by the way. I don't know, man. I believe we can start landing some D linemen and linebackers when we get them. So when I say land them, like, no offense to the young men that we have landed already, but I'm talking, premier blue chip type guys. If you could land LJ, that would be dope. Do I have any type of confidence? I do not. There might be some other guys visiting this weekend. I'm not too sure. Again, haven't been following the recruiting stuff. Been more so paying attention to on field. And on field, we have Virginia Tech rolling into Tallahassee as we come off the bye week. Virginia Tech is what? 2-3. They are 1-0 in the ACC. So to Virginia Tech's credit, I mean, they're undefeated in Atlantic Coast Conference play. A win against Old Dominion, 36-17. Lost to Purdue, lost to Rutgers, lost to Marshall. And then a win this past weekend against Pittsburgh, 38-21. Pittsburgh also is not a very good team this year. I think Pittsburgh is actually 1-4, man. Pittsburgh is not a good team at all, which makes that game later in the year that I think a lot of us thought maybe was a trap game. I think that game looks maybe less trappish at this point. Pitt's not having a good go of it, but neither is Virginia Tech. We'll get to Pitt at a later time. Virginia Tech here. Again, man, not the best team coming into Tallahassee. But that isn't the issue. What do we know? Let's put it like this. We came in saying the same thing against Boston College. And we've said for the last 4 weeks, not including obviously the bye week, what have we said? We said Florida State really hasn't played a good game. Outside of 2 quarters against LSU, the fact that they're 4-0 speaks to possibly that this team hasn't reached its ceiling. This game, in my humble opinion, needs to be the statement game. Coming off the bye week, you had that first 4 game stretch that everybody knew that was the season-making stretch. That 4 games. You played LSU and Clemson in the first 4 games. You could have came out of that thing 2-2. I think most people, including myself, thought 3-1. You did 4-0. You managed to come out of that 4-0. Answer, can you win some big games? Answer, could you beat Clemson? But while answering some questions, you also, a lot more questions sort of developed during those 4 games. And I'm curious to see, has any of those things been resolved in the bye week? There's some offensive consistency questions. There's some, questions in the secondary, some injury questions. There's some, again, Florida State, and I think most Florida State fans, most people in the chat will agree. Jeff is in the building. I think most people will agree. They haven't played have they played a good 4 games? Again, outside of the second half of the LSU game, I think most people would agree, like, we haven't really seen what this team is, or, we haven't seen what they are. And I stand on that. I know there's some differencing of opinion on this team because they are a veteran group. Florida State is a veteran team. Senior quarterback, junior running backs, junior receivers, seniors and juniors on the O-line, junior type, especially on that offensive side of ball, right? You are a a senior-laden group on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, up front, you are experienced. Your front seven is experienced on the defense. Your back end, not so much. Yes, I know you have guys like Ronaldo and Fentrell and even Jarian. But some of those other guys that you kind of want to take that next step that I think would take that secondary to the next level, that's your AZs, man, your Shaheems and Akeem Dent being hurt, Knowles. You got some guys, some younger guys, I think. But the conversation has been, is Florida State playing their best football? And there's a mixed bag there, because on the surface, yes, how much better do you expect the Seminoles to be when you're talking about a team that's capped out essentially in terms of age and how much better is Jordan Travis going to be? How much better can Trey Benson get? Johnny Wilson has a drop problem. Well, he's been in college 4 or 5 years already. Has that really going to get resolved? And, your O-line, same thing with these guys. And Maurice Smith is who he is at this point, So to a degree, some make a decent point. I won't necessarily call it valid. But on the surface, maybe it's valid, right? This team is a veteran team, and they are kind of who they are on the surface. The reason I don't think Florida State has reached its potential nor its ceiling is because while they have played a lot of snaps, they haven't played a lot of snaps together. And when you look at some of the struggling pieces on the team through 4 games, and it's crazy we're talking about a 4-0 team and we're talking about some struggling pieces, but this shows you where the standard is, right? Or at least how I view this team. I view this team as being able to make a lot of noise, especially in a year. You can't show me a dominant football team in the country right now. So if Florida State is going to make that move, this is the season to make the move. Everybody looks beatable. You can't show me a team this year that you go, that is by far and away the best team in college football. Nope, because everybody looks like they can be beat any given Saturday. Back to the point. Are they a veteran group? Yes. But in my opinion, they have not reached their cap because while they played a lot of snaps, they haven't played a lot of snaps together. This O-line is almost to a degree with the injury to Robert Scott. The only person you brought back on the O-line is Maurice Smith. Robert Scott hasn't played this year. Bless Harris didn't play last year. So it's not like Bless Harris has any cohesion with anybody else. Roddick's new. I forgot about Meach. So Meach and Mo have played together, but Meach has never played next to Bless Harris or Byers for that matter. I mean, and then when you throw Keandre Jones in there, which, again, I still think is the better guard, you have an O-line that has not played any snaps together. I don't think it does them a service to rotate them as much as we do. But, again, I'm not Alex Atkins. I'm not the O-line coach. And I won't question Alex Atkins because he has shown to be the man. But with that said, when guys haven't played a lot of football together, there's always room to grow. This team, while you can argue talent level-wise, they might be at their ceiling. They are talently, they are, I think, adequate to compete at the highest level. What may potentially hold Florida State back, that we need to answer questions coming off of this bye week. Have they gelled better? Is the O-line gelling better? Are the receivers and Jordan Travis in better sync? I mean, we've talked about it at length through 4 games. We just running some real, again, I won't say we're running basic stuff offensively, but the way they are, whatever we're audibling to, when it looks like we are just saying go deep and we're going to throw it up to our receivers. That's essentially what the offense has looked like through 4 games. Wide receiver, quarterbacks, maybe getting on a better page. Offensive line, getting more in sync. That includes Jaheim Bell, obviously. Offensively, I don't think this team is nowhere near its apex. Defensively is where I'd say what you see is probably what you get. That is the one side of the ball where I think what you're seeing is probably what you're going to get. Unless you're telling me by game 6, 7, or 8, a guy like Conrad Hussey can come in and make a difference. I'm not so sure. Unless you're telling me at some point during the season, the light comes on for AZ and he flips it and he becomes what we think he may be. Unless you tell me there's some unforeseen guys on that defensive secondary that are going to flip the script. I think defensively is kind of what you see, kind of what it is. So those are some of the questions that I want answered after this bye week. Jeff comes in here with the $10. He says, I would say this. We wasn't healthy. And even though we had a lot of veterans, you got to remember we had a lot of new players that playing with each other for the first time. So they have time to gel. Yeah, basically what I said in a nutshell, right? A lot of veteran players, but not a lot of veteran guys that have played with each other. So I don't disagree with Jeff at all. Thank you for the $10 dono, Jeff.
Jeff.
Pretty Knoll girls in the building. On to Virginia Tech. As we talk about answering these questions, well, can we answer these questions against Virginia Tech? Well, the record says we should be able to. They have a dual threat quarterback by the name of Kyron Drones. He's thrown for 617 yards. He's completing only 50% of his passes, or 56%. He's only averaging 6 yards a pass, 4 TDs, and 1 interception. He's been sacked 9 times through 5 games. He has ran for 205 yards, but that's averaging 3.3 yards a run. But he also has 4 touchdowns on the ground. So essentially, he is their offense. He has 8 total touchdowns to his name alone. Their leading rusher is Byashul Tutton, 71 carries, 300 yards, 4 yards a carry, and a touchdown. Look, man, let's just keep it. They're averaging 25 points a game. They are 34% on third downs, 53% on fourth down efficiency. I mean, let's just call this what it is. You're not looking at a good offense. You're not. Zozuki's in the building. You're not looking at a good offense. Somebody said his rushing yardage is sack adjusted. Okay, let's take a look at. Let's go by game. You might be right. I don't obviously know for sure. So let's just look game by game. What he was running game by game. Since someone also said the man is a AR clone. That is interesting. So I want to see against Old Dominion. Come on. There we go. Against Old Dominion, Drones. Okay, that's not game by game, damn it. There we go. This website's being silly because it won't. Here we go. Let's just do. All right, there we go. Drones. So Drones didn't start the season off. So against Old Dominion, a guy by the name of Grant Wells actually started the season, and this man threw for 251 yards and 3 touchdowns. My guess is this guy had to get hurt because Drones did not. He only threw 1 pass in this game for 8 yards, and he only ran 3 times for 3 yards. or 2 yards. So this guy didn't even play against Old Dominion. You can tell how much Virginia Tech football I've watched. Very little, if any. Right? That's against Old Dominion. Let's go to the Purdue game. I'm really interested in this Jones dude because I'm hearing a lot of he's a dual threat. And obviously, y'all know how the dual threats always look at when we play him. He's a dual threat guy. And so, again, yeah, Wells Grant had to get hurt because, again, this guy, Wells Grant, started against Purdue and threw for 200-plus yards and 2 TDs and 2 picks. Drones only 2 for 7 for 32 yards. And he only ran 1 time for 13 yards. Okay, so I still haven't seen this guy explode. Let's see what he did at Rutgers. Another game Virginia Tech lost. We're learning together. This is the lone game. Well, this is the first game he started. See, this is where again, I haven't watched him. But I struggle when you call someone a Anthony Richardson clone. When this dude ran 22 times and averaged 3 yards a carry, a long of only 13 yards and ran for 84 yards, threw for 190 yards, 1 TD, 1 interception. You're essentially using – man ran 22 times. That is a flat-out running back. That's more Tebow-esque than that is Anthony Richardson. Okay? That is – you're going to run the guy 22 times. Let's see what he did against who did we just look up? Was that Purdue or Rutgers, I think? I think that was just Rutgers, yeah. Let's look up Marshall. Another game they lost. This time he throws 19 of 35 for 160. Doesn't seem like he can throw a lick. Yeesh, this is terrible. This game he runs 15 times for 108, 2 TDs. Again, though, only 5 yards a carry. Not against that's against Marshall. It's against Marshall. Not quite seeing. Let's see what he did against Pitt. This guy is obviously their offense, so that's why we're spending so much time on him. And Florida State fans, we tend to worry about these quarterbacks. So now against Pitt, he starts looking like a respectable quarterback. Against Pitt, he goes 12 for 19, 228, and 3 touchdowns. So he balled out against Pitt. And he's still running way too much. 21 attempts on the ground, 86 yards. And obviously you do count in some of those. He's only sacked twice. That's 2 yards a carry right there. I mean, I don't know, guys. I don't think he's a guy that you worry about. And I know what we're thinking. Get in front of my Adam Fuller defense, he's gonna look like, Cam Newton. What's his measurables? Let me look at his measurables. How big is this kid? Before I label him Cam Newton. 6'2", 234. He's a big boy. So he's not a small kid. 234, 6'2". They doesn't have the height of Cam, but they're going to run him. Redshirt sophomore out of Texas. He's actually transferred from Baylor, it looks like. So he started at Baylor. Big boy. They're probably gonna run him, obviously, because that's the game plan. You see the guys getting 20-plus carries most games. They do have a decent running back, or at least a guy that they give a lot of touches to. He's had a couple 100-yard games. that Tootin dude. I can't pronounce that first name to save my life. So the guess is, again, not a guy who's watched much Virginia Tech football. I'm not going to pretend like I watched a lick of Virginia Tech football this year. But they seem like they are going to try to line up and run the ball at us. Well, let's see how we match up. Let's see how we match up against that. I think we should. It's tough. Let's look at some more stats from this Hokie team. Again, not a very efficient offense, man. I would really hate for Adam Fuller's sake, because if you haven't been paying attention, Mike Norvell has been a little bit of how do I phrase it? Watch a couple of Norvell's interviews, and I don't want to say he's taking shots at the defense, but I do feel like in his interviews he's set a bar. He's made it known that they need to be better. Like again, taking shots is the wrong word, but he's like made a point of emphasis to like, okay, defensively we need to do X, Y, and Z, and that's what I expect. So I'm interested to see how that continues to evolve. I know a lot of people would love to hear the magic words on Adam Fuller. We will see how that plays out. I would hate for a team coming out with these type of offensive numbers. I mean, you're talking about a team that's averaging 3 yards a carry. That's with the Anthony Richardson clone. A team that's averaging 7 yards attempt in the passing game. Only 222 yards a pass. 12 sacks. They've given up 12 sacks on the season. So it doesn't sound like the O-line's very good. Again, they only complete 34% of their third downs, so they're not good on third down at all. So we should be forcing some 3-and-outs. Passing first downs, rushing total first downs, they have 96. I don't know where that ranks. Let me write something. Well, I don't have a pen on me. But they only have 96 first downs on the year, 15 touchdowns on the year. I mean, you're talking again, man. It looks like you're talking about a team that offensively doesn't look like we should really be. Again, I would hate for Adam Fuller's sake. I really would that team. So compared to Florida State, let's look at some of Florida State's numbers. Our third down efficiency sucks too at 37%. But our fourth down efficiency, because Mike likes to go for it on fourth, is up at 77, while theirs was down, I believe, in the 50s, 54. 23 total touchdowns. Of course, now we start talking about the passing numbers. We're averaging 9 yards an attempt in the passing game. 4 sacks giving up on the year. That's an awesome number. 1 interception, obviously. Our rushing numbers are not good. Theirs are even worse than ours. Again, they were averaging 3 yards a carry. We're averaging right under 5 yards at 4.7. Run around that up or not. We're averaging right at 5 yards a carry. So, yeah, you compare the numbers, and we know our offense has stuttered. It's explosive when it connects, and when it's not connecting, it stutters out. That has more to do with our, I believe, play calling and usage than it has to do, with the talent. I'm not sure what the Virginia Tech talent is looking like there. Again, I'm just looking at the basic stats here, and Virginia Tech's offense should be manageable come Saturday. I would hate for that team to somehow erupt on an Adam Fuller defense. I don't know how you would defend it. I don't know how, like when I say defend it, defend Adam Fuller. Let's see what y'all talking about in the comments. What's up, Briley? But this is Omar Long. I just saw Briley's name pop. He said, I'm not worried, though. We should put belt to behind in this one and get starters out and play young guy. You would hope so. You would hope so. I would hope so, right? They run a lot. Eye candy aren't opposed to running triple option type act. I obviously, because they have a running back at quarterback. We'll need a real solid assignment sound performance from the linebackers, and the front four has to handle the run. We need to fix the defense badly. He says, I know. You don't care. Fire Fuller regardless. I get you. Pitt was able to get pressure and tackles for loss. He just made plays under pressure. So basically, Damian, what you're saying is wrap them up when you have the chance, okay? Could it be that our D-line is just overrated? I don't think our D-line's been the problem. You know, maybe I'm in the minority here when I think that, but I don't think our D-line's been the problem. And while I'm not the biggest proponent of PFF grades, those grades reflect that. Our D-line hasn't been the problem. We've had some other problems. Virginia Tech's defense coordinators. That's the next part. We're focusing on our defense right now. We're going to get to the offense, but we're focusing on the defense. Antoine says this is a bad Vodtech team. They don't have a lot of speed outside. They have one decent backer. They have some size in the secondary, but they are slow. Our D9 is stifling the run, and 3-4 teams we've played have gotten the ball out under 2 seconds. Our defense starters are super efficient with the expectation of the Boston College flu game. Our defense is not bad. We just have a philosophy that gives up the underneath and quick game instead of the explosive. Frustrating, but if you look at the minutes that matter, our D has been efficient. Their linebackers are tall. See what Pitt numbers are because they exploded on them. I don't know what Pitt's numbers are. I can look it up. I mean, Pitt lost the game and they only scored 21 points. I don't know. Is that considered an explosion? But Pitt's not a good team, to be fair to Virginia Tech. Pitt is 1-4 on the season. But let's do it. Let's look at what Pitt was able to do against this vaunted Chris Marv defense. So Jurkovich went for 235 and 2 touchdowns. They only ran the ball for 38 yards. But that's 22 of that took they ran the ball for about 60 yards. 22 of that taken away due to sacks. Yeah. So they couldn't run the ball. They only averaged 1.6 yards a carry. I mean, their leading rusher, 10 carries, 41 yards. You can do the math on how many yards a carry that is. I don't know. Pitt's offensive numbers don't jump up at me. So I don't know. Don't know. So I think that's the focal point of the defense. Again, not so much how this dude runs it, though they're going to run him, and he's a big boy, and they're gonna run him. They're gonna run him a lot. Can we keep him with those mediocre passing numbers? Because where Pitt messed up, again, the guy went 12-19 for 230 and 3 touchdowns, and he averaged 12 yards a pass in that game. So that's where Pitt messed up. Pitt let them hit big plays. I mean, they had they had 3 receivers in that game average over 20 yards a catch. Speaking of Virginia Tech against Pitt. So Pitt messed up in the passing game, not so much the running back. Yes, they did give up 109 yards to the starting back. But, I mean, this Kyron Drones dude we're talking about, he ran the ball 21 times and only for 41 yards. That's 2 yards a carry in the Pitt game. So Can you keep this guy from, again, looking like Michael Vick? Verse needs to get some sacks. Defense's main problem is communication in the back end. Sure. Could remove Ronaldo to safety. I've been against that because Ronaldo had his best year as a corner, his best year, period. So for me, it was always keep Ronaldo at his best position. If you move Ronaldo to safety, now my question becomes, who are you putting at the starting corner? He's your best DB, period. Don't tell me Jarian, because now let's not move guys out of positions they're excelling at. So don't move Ronaldo to safety, and then let's say, okay, now we're just going to throw Jarian on the outside. Well, we've seen Jarian on the outside, and we've seen him struggle. Let's keep Jarian in the nickel, where he's been pretty damn good. Ronaldo's your best safe corner on the outside. I don't know what you do at safety. Play one of these young guys, but you got to figure it out. Jeff with another $10. He says, our defense is giving up a lot of yards, but they have made big plays when they needed it. And because of their defense is why we won the game at Clemson. I'll be honest with you. I agree with that first part. The one thing I'll say about Florida State's defense is we have given up yards in the middle. I almost feel like every time they're in the red zone, that defense is biting down, and they're damn near stifling everything in the red zone. I mean, and teams got to go 4 downs in the red zone to even have a chance to score offensively. That is true. I don't think our defense, well, if you want to count the Deloach play, okay, that's fair. And saying that that's why the defense won the game against Clemson. I think it's a mix of we made the plays we needed to make, and Clemson really did some stupid stuff at the end of that game, if I'm being honest with you. That's not taking anything away from our accomplishment, because at the end of the day, you still got to win football games. But Clemson did some dumb stuff at the end of that game that benefited us. I ain't mad at it, but it is what it is. But appreciate that, Jeff, as always.
Never, Jeff.
So we all have come to pretty much the conclusion. If you can somehow stop this Kyron Drones kid, and again, he doesn't look, again, I got to watch him. But statistically, he doesn't jump off the screen. But he's obviously the focal point of that offense, and how he moves is how that offense, essentially is how that offense moves. So we have to not make him look better than he is. Make him look like a guy that's completing 50% of his passes and averaging, what's he averaging? 6 yards a rush. Like that. Make him look like that. Make him look like a guy who's what is he averaging? Like 6 yards a pass or whatever crazy number that is. Like that's what we have to make him look like. The question is offensively. So what does this Virginia Tech defense bring to the table? Do they bring anything to the table that we would have to worry about? I'm not so sure about that either, because if you go to their schedule, or let's just do the numbers first. When you look at Virginia Tech's defense, they're giving up. So they only average 24 points a game. They only give up 24 points a game, but teams haven't necessarily had to put a bunch of points on them to win, because, again, they can't score a bunch of points. They give up about, I'm trying to see, they've given up, and the way they put this, 157 yards passing a game. But they're giving up about 335 yards a game. And they've given up 16 touchdowns on the season. some of these numbers, I mean, take it for what they are. 5 games in, Old Dominion, Marshall, again, and some of these teams just haven't had to score a lot of points to beat them. I mean, no, we're in 2023, and no one's broken 40 points in any game that they've played in. I mean, Old Dominion only scored 17. They only scored 36. Purdue only needed 24 points to beat them. Rutgers put 35 on them. Marshall put 24 on them to beat them. So Purdue and Marshall only needed to put 24 on them. And then last week, Pitt could only do 21 points. I don't know if we're looking at a good defensive team or not. A lot of this is a very interesting game for a lot of reasons. Because I'm just looking at stats. Again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I've sat down and watched a bunch of Virginia Tech football. I have not. Have not wasted one moment. The college football season this year has been too stacked and too loaded with watching Texas and Colorado and LSU, and that Ole Miss game was insane last week. College football has been stacked. I would not waste a second watching a Virginia Tech team unless they're playing my nose. That's just the facts. So I have not wasted any time watching this team. Statistically, and from the score sheets in the box, they don't look like a good football team. Record-wise, obviously, they're not a good football team. But then I look at some of the games. I look at the games that they've played, and I don't know, very interesting matchup here. No, I don't think Florida State has a threat to lose this game at all. On paper, this should be a game that Florida State comes out and does what they're supposed to do, and possibly in the third quarter you're playing your backups. But what I'm interested to see how we look coming off a bye. That's where this whole thing starts and stops for me. How do we look coming off a bye week? Have we addressed some of the issues? If I went down a list and asked, or if I just asked y'all in the chat, put some issues that y'all want to see, have they been addressed in the bye week? You know, what would those be? What are those issues that need to be addressed? Did we address them? So that's what I'm interested to see. Virginia Tech's a quality team coming off of a bye, right? Like, this should be almost a perfect team to get off a bye. It's a Power 5 team. They have some guys, but they're not a team that you're sitting here biting your fingernails about coming off your bye week for the quote-unquote number 5 team in the country. We should be able to, and it's what, a mid-afternoon game. That's perfect. And we should be able to come in there and answer some questions. Right? We're averaging we almost do everything better than them, with the exception, though, defensively, we've given up more yards than them. But again, look at the resumes. FSU's played tougher competition. Right? We've played tougher competition at the end of the day. The best team they've played, like, what is Purdue's record? Purdue has a losing record at 2-3. What is Rutgers' record? Rutgers 4-1. That's probably the best team they've played this year. Rutgers. What's Marshall's record? Marshall's undefeated, so I take that back. But they play in the damn Sun Belt. And Marshall has played Albany, Old Dominion, and East Carolina. Like, the best team they've played is Marshall, y'all. What do y'all think? What's y'all's thoughts? I don't know. Interesting, but I don't know. Adam Fuller better drop his nuts. I think Verse Eats. Yeah, no 7 on the outside. He's good where he's at. We don't need any more low lights of him on the outside. Yards don't score points. We got to decide, do we want to be 2013 or 2014? I don't know if we're not going to be 2013. I understand what you're asking. We're not going to be 2013. Again, look at the whole landscape of college ball. There is no dominant team. Florida State fits right in that mix of no one's looked like a world beater so far. No one has looked like a world beater so far. So I don't know if there is a 2013 team anywhere in the country. A lot of teams are looking 2014-ish. Whether that's us, hell, Georgia. I think Georgia's gone into like 2 halftimes this year trailing, and they've somehow managed to win. Alabama, who people told me was no good. They beat Ole Miss, who just beat LSU. So what does that mean? That LSU wasn't any good? Remember, y'all were telling me the Alabama team was no good because y'all didn't like the fact that I thought Texas had the single best win of the season. Alabama looks pretty damn good to me in comparison to everything else. And we're going to get a lot of answers about Texas, as Texas and Oklahoma, big game this weekend. But again, that's off topic, but there's no dominant team out there. As long as we are steadily improving week by week, I think we're good. I think maybe Boston College can be the game that we look back and go, that was the game that kind of woke them up. Because you knew they were going to wake up for Clemson, right? Maybe the Boston College game was the game. You go out here, get some other guys involved offensively. We haven't even talked about our offense, which we need to talk about that offense. But let me get through these last few comments, and we'll get on the offense. Seminole Zach says, we can't play down to our comp of these next couple games. We need to go dominate to help our case in the I don't care about the college football voters, and I'll tell you why. But he says, get that bad taste out of their mouth from Boston College. Yeah, I tell you all the time, I don't care about the rankings. First of all, the rankings aren't going to matter till December. That's number one. We care too much about the rankings and bragging rights and say, I get it. If Florida State does what Florida State's supposed to do, they'll be okay. There is not a threat in the world that if FSU does what they're supposed to do, they're being left out of the college football playoff. The question is, can we afford a loss? I think we can afford a loss, but it will matter who that loss is. And so to some degree, I hate to say it, because Florida's a lost cause. That program is dumpster juice, right? But I hate to say it. In a lot of ways, you need November 11th against Miami. If you're going to lose a game, that's the game. And you need Miami to come in that thing undefeated, or the only team they've lost to is like North Carolina. That's just the facts. If you're going to lose a game, it has to be that game, and Miami has to be a one-loss or undefeated team. If you're going to lose a game, then you rematch them in the ACC championship, and you get your win back. That's the only game if you're going to lose. Other than that, we should run the table. But yeah, I don't care about it. Do your job, you'll be ranked right where you need to be. You got too many quality wins. Through 4 games, you got too many quality wins already. You beat Florida, you beat Florida and Miami. Regardless, I know Florida's dumpster juice, but still, that's on the resume. Duke is going to probably still be ranked. With Riley Leonard, I know he sprained his high ankle sprain. He probably is going to miss a few weeks or whatever, but I think Duke should still be a quality football team. You should be okay. I half expect us to come out and sling the ball around. 4 wides, 2 tight ends. Well, that's what we've been doing all year. I also expect more outside zone runs. They're transitioning to more power running game, big personnel. As long as we put things together offensively, Florida State will be okay. If we do that, we can score and beat anyone. I'm going to scroll down, skip a couple comments, unless I see something that I want to address. What's up, Brandy? If we don't get the run game going this game, I'm afraid it won't ever get going. That's a fair point, maybe. Pretty goal. She says she just wants the ACC championship. I'm with you. You just want the ACC championship. Can we start there? Antoine says, don't sleep on Gators in the swamp. They actually play well at home. Billy's home record is pretty good. I'm sleeping all on that. Billy better hope by the time that game comes around that he still has that team's attention. Kentucky just ran for 300. Kentucky's still running on the Gators, by the way, if you haven't noticed. I think the guy just scored another touchdown. Kentucky. And Kentucky's a solid program, don't get me wrong. Mark Stoops has done a great job over there. But they just let a guy run for 280, 300 yards. I'm sleeping on that. And I'm sleeping on it. Not that I think you're wrong, Antoine. It's not that I think what you're saying is wrong. But what I do think is, you look at this schedule. What do you think Georgia's going to do to Florida? What do you think LSU is going to do to Florida? Because Florida can't score. You say what you want about LSU. They're going to score points. Georgia's going to destroy them. As far as I'm concerned, Billy better hope he still has that team's attention come the last game of the year. And he better hope that team hasn't quit on him. Because in that Kentucky game, some kids looked like they gave up and just didn't want to tackle anymore. What up, Kane Zay? I hear you, bro. I'm not even mad at that. Like, I hear you. Who do I think is our toughest opponent left? Again, my hope is it's Miami. I'll be honest with you. That game should be nice this year. I would have said Duke, but again, if Riley Leonard's not on the field, Duke still might be your toughest game, only because that team is extremely well coached. My issue with Duke is they don't have a lot of elite athletes on that team. So if Florida State can get some athletes out in space, we'll be all right. But Duke is extremely well coached. Extremely well coached. And that will be I think that if anything, they're not going to play themselves out of that game, right? And Briley says he actually thinks Miami continues their winning ways against Georgia Tech, but losing to a bad Georgia Tech after starting 4-0. I don't think there's a part of me that wants to say they better watch out for Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech just lost to Bowling Green. Right. I can't take Georgia Tech seriously. If I'm being honest with you, there's nothing I take serious about Georgia Tech. Would I love to see it? I come on here and I die laughing. If I'm being honest with you, I don't. Miami would, that'd be a terrible look. And I agree with this. Well, I need to see them beat North Carolina too. But I agree with this, though. Miami got to see that. If they can win that game, I'm with you. I'm with you. Offensively, man, again, I think you got to take some of their defensive. Speaking of Virginia Tech, they got to take some of their defensive numbers with a little bit of a grain of salt, because have they played a good offensive team? I don't think they have, right? I don't think they've played a good offensive team. So for me, it's just offense. What are we working on? So we've had this tendency offensively to kind of want to try stuff against some lower. Speaking of Southern Miss, we wanted to try some things. I believe, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, we threw 29 times in that first half against Southern Miss. We came out slinging the rock. Well, okay, cool. We come out slinging the rock, but is that what do we? I'm interested to see offensively, man. How do we approach this team? Do we try to establish the run? If we are going to throw the ball, do they do what they've been doing? Or do we actually mix some underneath stuff up, get some quick passing game going, and then try to go over the top? There's a lot of questions coming in the Virginia Tech game. Again, not so much of something you should be concerned about, but I'm interested to know what do we build on, or what do we address? What did we address on the bye week? I'm very interested. This is going to be, and it's crazy to say this, but I always believe that some of the hardest coaching jobs are with good teams. And you can argue that this might be Mike Norvell's hardest coaching job this year because of the team he has, keeping them focused, keeping them, engaged. We kind of saw it against Boston College. They went up 31-10. I'm not going to lie, at that point, I thought that game was over, and it wasn't. And even Mike Norvell admitted, they took their foot off the gas mentally in that game. They took their foot off the gas, and it almost bit them. Do you avoid that against a Virginia Tech team? I think so. I absolutely think so. But I'm very interested to see how it plays out and how it looks. Ultimately, I don't see I don't see Virginia Tech as a threat. I don't see Boston College. I keep saying Boston College for some reason. I don't see Virginia Tech as a threat. But I do want to see how they come looking off of a bye week. I do want to see how we come looking off of a bye week. My hope is you don't come out looking rusty. My hope is come out looking sharp, ready to attack. What? You got Virginia Tech, Syracuse, Duke, Wake. Like, man, I'm not even going to lie to you. This stretch of games, I mean, bro, we should roll into Miami like 9-0. Like maybe Wake Forest is 3-1. Maybe Wake Forest is an interesting game. Like maybe. But even Wake Forest, I'm like, they lost to a Georgia Tech team that I think is trash. So like with Wake, I'm looking at it like, okay. I don't put too much stock in the Wake, if I'm being honest with you. I don't put a lot of stock into that team. So that's really how I look at this game. And the next few games, if we're being honest, Duke is the interesting game, but if they don't have their quarterback, I don't see him as too much of a threat. But I'm so interested and excited to see how they attack these next 4 games, because you should be overwhelmingly favorited in all of them. Is favorited a word? Is favorited a word? I think favorite is a word, I think. But I don't know. You should be the overwhelming favorite in all of those games. And I'm just so, we talked about, I think Tyler brought it up. Do we want to be 2013 or 2014? And while I don't think there's no 2013, if you put your, curb stomp, put your heel on their neck in these 4 games, maybe now maybe you are coming into your own. Because it wouldn't be any better feeling than going into November 11th and you've blown out these last, 4 or 5 opponents or however many is going to be by then. Right? And you're just riding that wave. Let's see. What are we talking about here? Zay, I think you woke some people up. I think they about to get on you. King Zay says they on a revenge tour. Right. Unless Middle Tennessee on your schedule, big homie. I don't know what revenge tour y'all on. I'll believe the revenge tour if y'all beat North Carolina, though. For me, that's where the turning point is for Miami. I'm not gonna lie. Well, in fact, let me look at Miami's schedule. I know. Y'all are giving Zay the business. So because y'all are giving Zay the business, I want to look at Miami's schedule. Normally, I don't bring Miami up on Wednesday nights. But I only want to look at their schedule because I want to see what's the next few games. Okay, so you got North Carolina. So this Georgia Tech game might be a little more interesting than I originally thought, y'all. I didn't know Georgia Tech was right before the North Carolina game, and it's at North Carolina at that. could this potentially be a trap game for the Miami Hurricanes? This is actually interesting. The game just got a little bit more interesting to me, Zay. I didn't realize that. If you're not careful, you might find yourself in a game with Georgia Tech. Maybe if you're looking ahead to North Carolina, you might find yourself in a game. You might find yourself in a game. Tyler, with an interesting comment. He says, I almost feel like the 2022 team at the end of the year would beat this team. The 2022 team by the end of the year was clicking on all cylinders. However, Tyler, where I disagree with you only because of this. The opponents by the end of the year were all trash. Florida was no good. Miami's 45-3. Cuse, garbage. There were no good teams that last stretch of the year. You're judging that stretch of teams. Again, I know LSU's got 2 losses, but we gave them one of those losses. And I know Clemson's got 2 losses, but we gave them one of those losses, right? So you're judging that over 2 really talented teams in LSU and Clemson. So though you can't excuse Boston College, and I don't like to gloss over that because Boston College is something you should pay attention to. So I don't know. Definitely that was a more cohesive team by the end of last year, right? But I don't think we've got to that point yet. Let's see how we attack these next few games. And Florida State can start to turn a corner. Very possible. I think LSU is still good too, by the way. It's not like Ole Miss went out there and dominated them. But we already had exposed that LSU didn't have a great defense. So nothing Ole Miss did, in my opinion, was like shocking. Just that we were able to stop a really good offense and Ole Miss couldn't. So we should get more credit for that, in my humble opinion. James says the tropical storms ain't doing nothing. Casey says that 2013 team he didn't believe until after Game 6. Jimbo had a tendency to fall flat in the game. We shouldn't. Mike has shown that too. We'll see what happens. Game 6 for us is what? That's going to be – hold on. Let me see. I lost it that quick. Game 6 for us. Bro, this is not that's not what I clicked on. Give me my schedule. What is this? Here we go. That's Cuse. Game 6 for us will be Syracuse. Not at all. LSU's defense is not good at all. But neither is USC's, if we're starting to compare all those things. Of course. Game 6 is Cuse. Yep. I agree with that. I think when you go back and look at 2013, I just feel like it's the Clemson game is when, if you had any doubts, the Clemson game is when you should have known. Like you went into Death Valley and did that. And what that was what was that? That was game. Yeah, Clemson was game 6. Yeah. After that game, because you still had that Boston College game where they didn't look that good, But yeah, after Clemson, there was nothing left to be said after that. Man, we put 80 on Idaho that year. Wow, we put 80 on them boys. That team was a little different. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking when I look at the schedule. You start to make that statement over these next few games. You roll into Miami on that high horse, feeling pretty good, feeling pretty dominant. Schedule's not hard, y'all. Schedule's not hard. Maybe Wake Forest is a good team. It's going to be interesting what Duke looks like without, does Duke's quarterback even play against us? If he does, his strength is his legs and his feet. How mobile is he going to be if he even does play against us? If he doesn't play against us, what do they have? Do they have an offense without him? I don't know, man. That schedule lines up pretty good for the home team. You can't lie there. That schedule lines up pretty good for the home team. Briley says, I don't care about statements. I just care about efficiency. FSU in high 30s and opponents in the low 20s is fine as long as the backup seed measurement. I care about that second part too. I care about that efficiency. I'll be honest with you. The statements should be made if the efficiency is there. My problem through 4 games, the offense, in my opinion, just hasn't been efficient. It's been big play or bust. And if we can't establish the run, and if we can't hit the jump ball, then it's like we can't move the ball. And I've had a very big issue with that in the first 4 games. We have been big play or bust. And again, I keep calling for just the underneath stuff. Can we do some stuff in the middle of the field, underneath? Again, those crossing routes, those drag routes, just something. Can we utilize the slot a little bit better? Be more offensively efficient. I would love to see an efficient. Let's just get to the point. Let's finish reviewing this game. But the point is, I need to see what I want to see is Florida State come off of the bye week after the big win against Clemson and play their best 4. I want to see 4 quarters. That's what I need to see Saturday. I need to see 4 quarters. We have not seen 4 quarters, and it's a testament to the talent level of this team that they haven't played a consistent game, full game, and still are 4-0 because when they have turned it on, they've been that dominant. But I want to see them put 4 quarters on Virginia Tech, offensively and defensively. That's what I want to see. Ultimately, as I think about it, I go back and forth in my head. I'm going to make a game prediction right now. Florida State, Virginia Tech, Hokies. I'm going to say we see that. I'm going to say we see 4 quarters of efficient football. Don't mean we're going to put 80 on them, but we're going to be able to move the ball when we want to, pick up 3rd downs when we need to and when we want to, run the ball effectively. I think the running game might still be a work in progress. I expect to see a few more receivers get involved. The Winston Wrights, the Ja'Kai Douglas, he's back healthy. I want to see us utilize some more shifty receivers out in space if we can do that. I am going for, because this is an Adam Fuller defense, I've got 45-17 Florida State over Virginia Tech. Put your predictions in the chat. I got it 45-17. And I did not look at the chat before I made that prediction because I see James with 42-17. Shout out to James. But I was not looking at the chat. Got a 52-13. That would be a statement. I think most people would be thrilled with that score. 38-14 is also, I think that's a valid prediction as well. 41-17, 38-7, 48-13, 41-10, 58-12. All right, Fatal Jedi, y'all. I'm with it, man. 55-20. Got it. Y'all think we're getting in the 50s? I would love for us to get – I want to see us get back in the 40s, though, before I can start going that high. 38-10, 37-17, 35-10. Okay. 52-21. So no one thinks this is going to be that much of a competitive game. And I would have to agree. Even though 37-17 is a little interesting. That would almost make me feel like that game is close at some point, Groy, if you think of 37-17. And it could start off that way. 52-10, 50-20. $49-17, 48-24, 49-14. All right, I like all of these. 42-24, they scored 10 against the backup. So you think ultimately it would have been a 42-14, and then they scored 10. Gotcha. 10 in garbage. All right, man. So we're all feeling confident. That's awesome. I like to see that. There was a time where we weren't so confident coming on here, but no one's looking at a hiccup here against Virginia Tech, and I got to agree. I don't see too much of a hiccup. Player of the game. We went to 21 personnel the second half against LSU, and we was running power off it. Let's go back to that. Let me highlight that comment. We got to hit that 50 mark this game. If we make it even look close, they pushing us back another spot. You win 45-17 or something, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. Here's what we know. Matter of fact, let's look at the top. Let's look at the top 25 real quick. Texas and Oklahoma. So Texas could drop. We'll see. I don't know who Ohio State played. Penn State, Washington, Oregon, Southern Cal, Notre Dame. Like none of these teams really. I don't know. I don't even know how some of these teams play. Where's ESPN when I need them? There we go. Georgia plays. Who's Georgia play this week? So Georgia and Kentucky, very interesting game. I don't think Kentucky wins, but an interesting game, the way Georgia's look. Michigan and Minnesota. Michigan should handle business. Texas is on, obviously, upset alert because they're playing their big-time rival, Oklahoma, who's also 5-0. Ohio State. Maryland's undefeated. Ohio State and Maryland, guys, that might be a game to watch. That might be a game to watch. I think that Ohio State, Maryland. I'm looking at all of these to see if we would potentially fall another spot. What Penn State's playing Massachusetts. They're playing UMass. Penn State's not jumping Florida State off of a UMass win. Washington. Washington plays Oregon. No, that's next weekend. Washington plays Oregon. My fault. But that should be a big one for next weekend. Actually, and Penn State plays UMass next weekend as well. So there's no way Penn State jumps you off of a bye week. Then the last two teams is Oregon and USC. We already know who Oregon's playing next. So Oregon's on a bye week. And as USC plays Arizona this week. I don't worry about it. I think we're fine. I don't see anybody jumping us this week. Yeah, and these Pac-12 schools are going to start cannibalizing each other. So I don't think I see y'all with the Kentucky upset. I don't think so, but I do. Like if I had to pick, I think it's a lot more likely Maryland can upset Ohio State than Kentucky upsetting Georgia. My problem with Kentucky's style of football is it plays right into Georgia. It's not like Kentucky has a great quarterback and they're going to be able to test Georgia in the back end. They're going to try to run it down a stout defense's throat. And I know what Auburn was able to do last week. I don't see Kirby letting that happen 2 weeks in a row. It wouldn't shock me if Georgia won big against Kentucky, if I'm being honest with you. let's finish up real quick with some players to watch. Who are some of you guys offensively? Who's your player of the game? And defensively, who's your player of the game? We already did our prediction, and then we're going to get out of here for tonight. And then I got one more live either tomorrow or Friday night. I'm not sure which. Might try to get Jerg and Terrence on here Friday night. Is it in the Horseshoe? I mean, that's fair. Away game for Maryland, but I'm interested in that Maryland game. I'm interested in the Maryland game. But let's get it. Who is your offensive player in the game prediction for Virginia Tech? I'm going to go on a limb, guys. I'm going to say Trey Benson. I'm going to say Benson pulls his you-know-what out of his you-know-what. Pulls his head out of his you-know-what. And I'm going to say Trey looks like Trey from last year. I haven't been pleased with what I've seen from Trey Benson so far this year. I've been very vocal about Trey Benson so far this year. So to show that I'm not hating on Trey Benson or being unfair to Trey Benson, I think he comes out, he looks explosive. I'm gonna say Trey goes for about $150 least. I'm gonna say Trey Benson hits about $150 at a minimum and a couple touchdowns. Got Trey Benson on the offensive side of the ball, and defensively, somebody took it, but I agree. I think Jarrett Verse shows up this game, even though this is a running quarterback. And I know how we do against these running quarterbacks, which in theory would mean probably like one of the backers would be a player of the game contender, like Bethune. Bethune's a good one, Antoine. But I'm gonna go Verse. Like I'm gonna say Verse. I'm gonna say Verse gets a couple sacks. I'm gonna say Verse gets about. I'm gonna go on a limb. I'm gonna say Verse gets 3 sacks this game. I think Verse finally turns it up a notch. So I got Verse and Trey Benson as my 2 players of the game. Let's see what we got. Tyler's got JT in Verse, Keon in Verse. POLK, take note. Virginia Tech with a weak defensive backfield will try to keep everything in front. They're going to drop more and open up everything for us. Rodney Hill. Okay. Interesting. Kevin Strong. Shaheem Bell. Okay. Bell on offense. Pat on defense. Okay. Trey Benson in Verse. So me and Seminole Zach on the same page. Jordan Travis in Verse. Keziah Holmes. Offensively, I'm hoping is Rodney. Defense, let me see Jerry and Jones. Some Jerry and Jones love. All right. Keon and Trey. So you think 2 offensive players, James, which is possible, definitely possible. Bethune and Dustin Hill. Dustin Hill. Okay, we've some of y'all who saying Hill, do y'all mean Destin Hill or do y'all mean Rodney Hill? I'm assuming Rodney Hill. We haven't seen. I mean, Dustin Hill is kind of doing what I kind of expected. Though I was a little bit more interested because they actually were putting him on the depth chart and starting him on the depth chart. But Dustin Hill is kind of having that impact that I thought he would have. Remember, I told you, like, if Dustin Hill had like 10 catches on the year, bro, I'd be ecstatic. Like that, I have had zero expectation of Destin, and you've kind of seen it. Like, it's not like they've really tried to get him the ball. Now, granted, they haven't tried to get anybody in the slot the ball, but they haven't really tried to target him or even put him in space. So, I mean, they got him out there, but it'd be cool to see, don't get me wrong, but I don't have any expectations for Dustin Hill. But it'd be cool to see. Johnny and Deloach. I like that one. Johnny the constant. Johnny's always the constant, bro. I doubt Dent is back this week. Hopefully next. Dent is back this week. Rodney, let's be honest, none of the slot receivers are a factor. No, they're not. Then I'm saying to Hill's defense, which I'm not criticizing him. I'm just saying coming off of a 2-year hiatus, that didn't have a bunch of expectations for Dusty. But to his defense, right, it's not just him. They haven't given any of the smaller receivers an opportunity to do anything. So you're absolutely right. Cypress and Winston Wright. Matthew, I went on a limb there, especially with the Winston Wright. Cypress, I could see Cypress maybe doing something, especially because I don't think this guy can throw the ball. So, yeah. But Winston Wright, I would love for them to get Winston Wright some touch. We talked about having the best receiving core in the country. And this crazy thing is we do. And we ain't even seen Winston Wright really get involved because Johnny and Keon Coleman have been the focal point. Can we please get Winston Wright involved? I hope Verse or Pat so we can impress McCray. I'll take a drink on the McCray stuff, but it's water, by the way. Look, I would love to get McCray. I believe it when I see it. I think the slots and Bell eat. They will put their biggest DB on the outside. He's like 6'4" or 6'5". Yeah. Can he keep up with Keon, though? That's the matchup. First of all, I don't think I've ever seen a 6'5" corner. That's insane. But if they do, good luck. Good luck, man. Y'all hit that like button on the way out if you didn't hit it on the way in. Share the video. Subscribe if you're new. That is going to wrap up this show. We did our little Virginia Tech talk, preview, and all of that. No worries. We're about to enter a stretch of games, guys, where I think we're going to come away very confident. Only questions we're going to be asking week after week is, do they continue to improve? Do they continue to improve? The Virginia Tech game is going to show, are they on that? Are we continuing to climb? Or is this team kind of what they are? Through 4 games, is this team kind of what they are? I think we find maybe some of those answers in the Virginia Tech game. You're 6'5" and you're play corner. Something's going on there. So hit the like button. No worries coming out of Tallahassee this weekend. The question is again, what do we do on the bye week and what do we learn? But thanks everybody for showing up. We got some more content coming for before the end of the week. And of course, y'all already know after the game, y'all know where to go, where to show up, who to tune into as we get that instant reaction on Saturday, right after Virginia Tech. As always, is your boy POLK over here on 863 Seminole TV. Stay classy, Seminoles. I think I'm going to get something to you Friday night. Me and the boys might turn up and y'all know how we do on Friday nights. Just talk all football in general. But y'all stay classy, Seminoles, and we are out here. Go Noles.